Hello, welcome. This is a Lingo 2 map making tutorial in Godot 4.3 Steamworks. So, RandP found something interesting the other day. Something that I wouldn't have tried because I assumed it would have worked the same as Godot 3. Fonts can actually be made unique in Godot 4, which means it is easy to pack a new font with a level. So, right here, what I've done with this level here is I have just made this panel 1 unique, made it local rather, which you can do by heading into this, and well, that's not a subscene, so I'll show you here. Make local, this option right here, if I do it to player, it'll pop all the players' parts of the subscene out into the main thing. So I did it to panel 1, and for clue here, I just put in my own font here, which I actually called new font. So let's do this for the answer as well. The symbol is going to be the main one that I actually want this for. Presumably I really only want symbols in there. Okay, so now I need to make this unique, and then I'm going to go down inside of the resource and say local to scene. Now I'm just going to change you back to what you were before, which is Lingo font. There we go. And now if I believe I click in and out of this, it should change its... Nope, it doesn't. Okay. My, yeah, there we go. My, what's its name? My previewer is actually separate from the font thing. So right now, we are just seeing the symbol where it would be. I am going to save this. Then I'm going to load into the game, into actual Lingo 2, running from Lingo 2, not from the editor, and show you that it actually works in-game. Alright, so don't make the mistake I did and try to name it new template, because the game has that in reserved scenes. It will not actually find it. So let's go to new font. And now if I go in here, you'll see that my new symbol is right there. So we can actually just bring new fonts straight into Godot. So now we have two options of how to make how to bring custom symbols into our maps. The first thing we can do is we can change a font and we can make local a panel, and then whenever we want a panel, we duplicate it. And now this will have, you know, as part of the symbol thing, it will have the same made unique font. And by the way, if you ever have a made unique resource and you want to reuse the same resource instead of copying it again into the level code, you know, multiple copies, you can go down here to, you know, where your unique resource is and say copy, and then paste it somewhere else. And now this is using the same made unique resource. So it'll contain one copy of the resource in the map file, and it'll reference it multiple times. Whereas if I press make unique on every single panel I want to be made unique, it'll include the font file separately for every panel. So duplicating the panel or copying and pasting the font in the font thing will work better. So if we want to change the file, we probably also want to make it easy for us to put it in human terms, and so we can also come in here and change the dictionary and make unique the script on here. So we could include our, you know, our new symbol here as being like wood, because I think that's what this trying had, and then paste. Oh, I don't have the symbol in here. Whatever. So I'd just paste my symbol, whatever it is, and put my little thing, and then it would replace that in there. So that's a very easy thing. Once I have my script unique, I would need to go down here and make unique it as well. So that's how you could very easily add a symbol to a ton of panels in your map. If you had 1,000 panels, this would work brilliantly for them. Now, there is another method that has already seen use, and that is by making a little mesh instance above the panel. So I think it's Daniar, maybe, who already has a subscene pre-made for you in the scripts and resources subchannel. That is actually quite useful. It just already prevents a mesh instance above there. But if you wanted to do it yourself, or you want to know the theory behind it, I would just make a mesh instance. I would make it a plane. I would align it with the thing here. Let's skip me the options here so I can very... You are not at the same alignment. Now you are. Okay. Until it's just barely covering, and just barely covering, please. And then I would shrink it. Can I have this shrink uniformly? Boop. And now I would leave my symbol part blank, That's the answer. I want the symbol part blank. And over here in the mesh instance, I would go to the surface material, override, new material. On this material, I would go over to albedo, which is going to be the main color of the whole thing. And instead of that, I'm going to load up a texture, which would be the image of my whatever. So let's see. Let's just go to something like this. Bam! Now I have a check mark, which should be showing as a check mark. No? Is it going to show as a check mark in game? Or have I just picked a texture that doesn't happen to work well for this? Oh, transparency should be... There we go. Transparency should be enabled because it was just reading the entire thing as a giant box. So now I would have, because this symbol isn't black on white, it's white on transparent. So now I would have a symbol in here, and I could do, I could do all my stuff like that. I could just copy this mesh instance onto every other panel. So I copy the mesh instance. Now if I paste into another panel, it'll paste it into the same relative place. And now I just need to adjust it so that it's maybe a bit closer, because that's actually pretty far away. So, you know, something like that would look much better in game. So that's the way that's already been done. Now, how do you make a font file? For that, I'm going to open up FontForge. So here I am in FontForge. And this can be a pretty scary thing, a pretty scary program. It doesn't tell you nearly enough to diagnose any of the problems you're really getting at it. So, if we head down here to the part where we start to get into International Unicode, you start to see some of the symbols that the game uses. So let's just click on one of these and let's break down how it's made. Let's click on... You will be an easy one. So if we look here, we will see one clockwise path, which is this one here, and one counterclockwise path. You can see the little arrows pointing down, little pointers pointing up, telling us where that's going. So that's this arrow here and this arrow right here. So, clockwise paths tell us that whatever is inside the path, inside the polygon, needs to be filled in. Counterclockwise tells us that it needs to be taken out. So if we go back to the main screen, we can see here that we have a little window here with a little cutout there in the shape that we get. If we go over to the pen tool, which is off of my other monitor because this is a great program, and I take, say, the pen. Nope, that is not what I wanted to do. That is freehand drawing. I wanted the pen, please. Now I can make another shape. I can make it all around this one. And that will cause some minor issues because it's surrounding another shape that it's surrounding. But now we can see I've just filled in that entire thing. I've just made this shape here that I made on the outside. And then if I wanted to cut out again, I could do something like this. Now I'm going counterclockwise, so it's going to subtract it. And you'll see I have that little thing there. So that is the manual way by which you could do it, is just drawing with a pen. If you want a full tutorial on FontForge that's going to be outside of the scope of this, I'm just kind of showing you the very basics so you could get started. However, another thing we could do that's even easier is we could go over to a new symbol here. I am going to import a file. What is a good file for this? What images do I even have here? Let's go for the UI image. Let's go for that check mark that we did earlier. So now I'm going to import this check mark. I love how you showed up. That's amazing. There we go. I'm going to import this check mark because this one works. And I am going to go to, where is it? Auto trace. So Control-Shift-T. I usually use this Control-Shift-T. So now if I click Auto Trace, it's going to look at the image I have here, and it's going to trace over all of it automatically. I can see already that this made a mistake, but let's go back and see what it did. So it didn't actually catch the check mark because of the whole, alpha transparency thing. It picked up on the white and the black, but not on the transparency. Why are you doing this? I see, the check mark is a separate image. I have two background images, it's only doing one of them right now. Whatever the case, I can also just cut this check mark out. And if I go back out, you'll see that I now have this check mark. Except that it's, I might have to fix up that little corner. So, let's just pretend I did that correctly and had no problems along the way. What I would now do is I would go to Generate Fonts. and I would say that this is going to be, this is Lingo new symbols. Just going to name it. And I would click on generate. It's going to give me some problems like self-intersecting and non-integral coordinates. Self-intersecting is more of a problem. Non-integral coordinates are going to happen all the time. Just generate. And now when I go back into Lingo, I am going to be able to symbol, font file, quick load, Lingo new symbols. Here we go. And this is going to be the one that contains my thing. So I just need to make unique it and then go ahead into the font file resource local to scene. And now it's now that font file is part of my scene. So we actually have a far easier way of making new symbols in Lingo than I thought we did. Quick thing I realized I forgot, and then went to review my video. I forgot to mention what this top modifier I still have pen on, what this top modifier and this bottom modifier are about. So those are anchors, and they tell the character in FontForge where to attach combining characters. So this one says, hey, we need some of our characters on top and some of our characters on bottom. This is where they should go. These are placed by default exactly in the middle at the very top and very bottom of the character glyph. You can see that they just align with the lines there, and they're exactly halfway through. So those are Anchor 1 and Anchor 2. I believe if I inspect element... Nope, that's not inspect elements. Control I. There we go. So we can see that this is an anchor point. I press Control I, which brings up the info panel for this. And I can see exactly where it is in X and Y coordinates. And does this tell me... Yes, so I can see that bottom modifier is the first anchor, and top modifier is the second anchor. So if I want my new symbol over here to do stuff correctly, to have combiners correctly, I need to go into... Where do I add an anchor? I thought it was in here somewhere. Okay... I always forget where to do everything in this program because there is so many options to choose, and I mostly only ever need auto trace and the pen. Okay. Add anchor. Here we go. So I need to add an anchor, and I'm going to start by placing it at about, I don't know, 524 or something, and 800, and I'll check where it is from there. Okay, that's actually pretty spot on. I just need to take this anchor and I need to move it. Am I able to do that? Yes, I am. I can move it right there, and that'll be... Oh, that's my bottom modifier, not my top modifier. I forgot about that. So that's actually completely the wrong place for it. It needs to go down here. Now I can not do that because apparently that nukes everything I do. Boy, I love this program. Okay, so don't use that keyboard shortcut, which was Control-D because I was trying to do the same thing I would in Godot with duplicating something. You can just make a top modifier instead. And there you go. Once you have these placed, that'll determine where the not symbols and squiggles go, which is going to be the top modifier, and where the dots go, which is the bottom modifier. So it also means you could do something funky, like have the dots show across... Can I pick this up, please? Apparently I'm picking up the thing beneath it. Here we go. I could do something funky, like I could have the dots show in the middle of my symbol if I really wanted to, just by placing this somewhere else. Or I could do something like have this show somewhere else. The top modifier, just by moving this around. But normally you'd want those at the top and at the bottom. By default, combining characters will not combine. So they will go to the right of the symbol instead, which is not really what you want.